look at next year's super console, the Saturn, and the first Saturn game, Virtua Fighter.
We'll be reviewing one of the first games for this year's add-on for the Megadrive, the 32X, Star Wars Arcade.
And Z Wright finds out how a New York TV station is using all the latest video techniques for a very serious purpose, to try and stop kids carrying guns into school.
Hello, slimy furtlers. Today, important safety tips. First, sound levels while you're playing. Now, it's very important you don't have your TV turned down too low while you're playing, otherwise you might get ear strain. I can demonstrate this most clearly with my first cheat, which is a level skip for Crew Ball on the Megadrive. Go to the sound test screen and listen to volume level 6. And then press A, C, A, B and start. Then you can skip levels by pressing up and B. Here we go. Level 2, 3, 4. But, furtlers, you may have noticed that I was struggling slightly with that last cheat because I could hardly hear volume level 6. Great danger of ear strain. So, I suggest using one of these, a separate amplifier and speaker setup. I've got 17 ohms, 2,000 watts, and several stages. Right. Whoa!
Okay, well, let my little poisson hold perfectly still and I will create. Here we go. Hello, Violet.
Now, unlike my old-fashioned friend here, I've moved on to a more modern way of painting. So, if you fancy making your own Christmas cards this year, have a look at this. It's called the Artpad. You plug it into your PC and use this pen to draw on it. It comes with a paint package called Dabbler. First of all, I always put my paper angled when I draw on it, and that's what I've done here, and I can actually do that on the screen as well. Here we go, just angle that slightly, and that's much easier to draw on now. Also, I can choose the texture of the paper I want. I open this drawer at the top. There's a whole range of different textures, but I'm going to choose canvas, because I'm going to be using oils a little later on, and that's very important for oils. Now, to show you one of the best things, I use the crayon facility, about the Artpad is the harder you press, the harder it comes out, and the lighter you press, you get a much lighter touch. Not much so far, but we'll see what we can do about that. If I pick up the spray paint and a nice orangey warm glow for the background, you can hear the sounds as well, of course. That's excellent. Give myself a little background. Press harder over this side, so we give it some dimension to the picture. Now, moving on to my oil paints. There you go. Now, you can either paint normally with oils, or you can do what I'm doing here and choose one of the styles that come with the package. This is the Impressionist style. So you don't have to paint all these little bits by hand. You can just use the pen and it will automatically make it look a bit like an Impressionist picture. Now, next I want to do some baubles. So open the drawer here for all the different colour palettes and choose a much brighter palette for some nice bright baubles. Now, I paint with normal paints on this, so just choose my brush and I pick a red for the baubles, and I think I'll have 5 of those. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's look a bit better now. Oh, and a star at the top of the tree. There you go, a lovely star. So, but it looks a bit rough, and I can actually improve it a great deal by picking this little water droplet. Now, when I've got the water droplet tool, I can just smudge around the edges there, or give the star a bit of luminance around the edge so it looks like it's shining out brightly, and just make the baubles look, you know, less brash, I think. It's lacking a certain something, and what I think it's lacking is tinsel. So if I go back to the oil paints and open my drawer here, I can choose a pointillist style. Now, the pointillism was something that was very popular in the 19th century. Basically, to you and me, it's just like a load of painting with a load of little dots. But it's perfect for tinsel. Nice fat tinsel with my pointillist style. And there you go, the perfect Christmas card, ready for printing out.
Violet, Violet, I've finished. Come on.
Let's have a look.
Have a look at this. Now, you did a technique called pointillism, didn't you?
Yeah.
I call this pointless. Look and learn. Look and learn, Violet. The latest add-on for the Megadrive, the 32X, hits the shops this weekend. More about the system itself later in the programme, but for now, our first 32X review, Star Wars Arcade. It's an arcade game about the Star Wars story. Who'd have thought it? With the details, here's Adam.
With all the hype there's been about the 32X, I would have expected this game to be a lot better, but all it is a waste of a Star Wars license. This differs from the other Star Wars console games, which are platform-based by using first-person perspective, What really destroys this game is the lack of control of the X-Wing. It's far too sluggish and you might as well be flying it underwater. And on top of that, there's no pause. All the start button does is change your viewpoint. There's also a two-player mode where one person plays a pilot and the other plays a gunner who uses a smaller gun sight on screen. It's quite fun, but it's not a major selling point of the game. By no stretch of imagination is it worth £60 and £170 to get the system as well. Let's hope the next games that come out are better than this.
It's not a bad game, but it's not a great one either. There's nothing really special about it.
The gameplay is limited, and the levels are not varied enough. I'm sure it doesn't use the full capabilities of the new hardware.
And the scores for Star Wars Arcade, a disappointing 3 out of 5 from the boys and the girls.
Hi, and welcome to New York's Times Square. This city is one of the biggest in the world, but it's gotta be, as it's home to
the Empire State Building, Madison Square Garden, and the world's second tallest building, the World Trade Center.
New York is also home to the hippest, busiest music station in the world, MTV.
Welcome. Our name is Maxine.
With music videos and promos being shown 24 hours a day, MTV acts as a showcase for some of the hottest computer graphics around.
And just a few blocks away, you'll find the offices of RGA, one of the world's biggest ad and film agencies.
RGA have worked on some of the biggest movies of all time. They were responsible for the special computer effects behind blockbusters like Demolition Man and this brand new movie called The Shadow.
But now these two pioneering companies have joined forces to combat a problem that's plagued New York for years: guns.
This is the Times Square body clock. 15 young people are shot and killed every day in America. MTV and RGA decided to produce this hard-hitting video together to warn kids about the dangers of getting involved with guns. In the movie, two street kids get into an argument that ends with devastating results. Computers were used to draw chalk line drawings around the characters as they go for their guns, emphasizing the point that as soon as you touch a weapon, you're as good as throwing your life away.
RGA used a technique called motion capture to produce real-time computer animation.
Stuntmen were connected up to this magnetic sensor rig and copied the movements of the actors in the film exactly to produce the computer chalk lines.
A sensor was placed at all the vital points on their bodies and connected to a computer. Then the stuntman stood near this black box which radiates a magnetic field and acted out the actions as the computer records their movements.
Okay, stand up. Move your left arm up and down.
After the motion capture information is saved, it's brought into the computer edit suite to be tidied up.
One of the problems we get with motion capture is instability in the motion. You see here in this scene that the leg at one point is jumping up just for 1 or 2 frames, and this is totally unnatural. This is due to the fact that we're using a magnetic field to capture this motion. The magnetic field is not very stable. For example, if you have some metal in the floor, that will create this kind of instability. So what I can do is just to move this point and to put it back where it should have been. So now that I did that, everything should look much better. Yeah, it's not jumping anymore.
The final stage is to match the finished computer graphics with the film. In most cases, the motion capture was shot first and the actors directed afterwards. But here, for the close-up, that would have been too difficult as the film would have had to fit inside the lines perfectly, requiring many takes. So they simply drew around the figure afterwards.
The film's been shown on MTV for 6 months now, and the clock's still rolling on. But it's hoped that with the new mix of computer technology and video, that the message will eventually get through.
And in the continuing fight against weapons, shops in New York have even stopped stocking toy guns in a bid to combat the problem. Let's hope it helps. Now for this week's news and preview.
Fans of NBA Jam can now play their favourite basketball game in miniature. It's due out on the Game Boy in a couple of weeks' time. Handheld basketball games tend to be a bit duff, but this one's looking good. It's just as fast as the SNES version, all the NBA teams are represented and all the dunks are in there too.
The first TV animation series to be produced entirely on computer starts just after Christmas. Reboot was made on the same supercomputers which brought you the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. It's the story of Bob and Dot, Two sprites who live in an incredible high-tech metropolis called Mainframe. As with all good stories, there's an evil baddie. This one's called Megabyte. Watch out for Reboot from January the 3rd on CITV.
A bunch of ex-games journalists have released their very own game for the Amiga. Fed up of reviewing other people's efforts, they formed their own production company, Binary Asylum. And this is their first offering, Z-Wolf. It's a 3D helicopter shoot-'em-up which looks a bit like the old classic game Virus, but plays a lot like Desert Strike. It's in the shops now.